clock has run through its series of checks
Hey guys,
so
welcome
that
to
the
35 here.
team
Watch
is
launch
ready
of
and waiting to pick
ST-37.
up the signal from each satellite
OneWeb launch.
after it separates from the upper stage.
First umbilical is just
45
retracted,
minutes,
so we're getting very
the
close.
SOC team gave the final go for launch. Battery status
There's
has
the
been
second
monitored,
umbilical,
and
so
right
we're about
now,
to have.
36 satellites
There's
are
ignition.
warm and cozy inside the fairing at the top of the Soyuz rocket.
And here we go.
There's ignition.
Let's watch and enjoy this.
Engines ramping up to flight pressures. There we go. And the liftoff of the Soyuz carrying OneWeb
There we
launch
have
12.
it. Liftoff for OneWeb launch 12. Maurizio, how are you feeling?
Marvelous. This is so exciting, Greg. So right now we are seeing the first stage booster engines doing all the work, pushing up against Earth's gravity, and they will burn for just under 2 minutes. At the run is past, the operational team is tracking and receiving telemetry data information from the launch vehicle. This is how they will be able to confirm the major flight events and when they have occurred.
And what will the satellites in the fairing at the top of the launch vehicle be experiencing?
So right now the satellites are experiencing an acceleration of about 4 Gs, which is similar to riding an extreme white-knuckle roller coaster. This is the start of their 4-hour journey before all the 36 satellites are released.
So they're on their way to low Earth orbit right now to become part of the OneWeb constellation. Take us through, if you can, Maurizio, how they're going to separate from the rocket when the time comes.
The satellites are released in a predetermined sequence of 9 separations. Each separation consists of 4 satellites, with the first release starting 1 hour and 11 minutes into the mission, and the 9th and final separation occurring 3 hours and 45 minutes after liftoff. They will be released at an altitude of 450 kilometers and will take a few weeks for them to reach the operational altitude of 1,200 kilometers, slowly moving
Actually, no, that would still be LEO, I think.
Once the satellite is released, its onboard computer wakes up and communicates with the team at our Satellite Operations Center, who monitors the so-called LEOP phase.
That sequence always amazes me. It should be booster separation any second now, so we're going to keep our eyes peeled.
And hopefully get to see
chasing
there we go.
What are we looking for, Maurizio?
That's the beautiful Korolev cross.
Yeah, it's getting closer. We'll be looking for the first stage cutoff and booster separation. This will occur after the booster have burned all their propellants. At that point, they're no longer required and are jettisoned to shed weight.
Now, I know we're just looking at a light, but I think I saw it. Yes, Ariane Spacial just confirmed that we have had first stage booster separation. Are we now at maximum acceleration then, Maurizio?
Yes, we have the maximum acceleration level at the end of the first stage flight phase. This is thanks to the 4 boosters we just separated. They're arranged around the central core and producing a thrust of 340 tons at liftoff. Right now, the job is to get the launch vehicle away from the Earth.
So we saw the first stage booster separation, just little dot, and those were the live cameras. We're now going to switch to animation. We don't have onboard cameras for today's launch. So the second stage has ignited. Maurizio, what happens during this stage of the flight?
So the second stage engine will burn for just under 3 minutes, and after it's jettisoned, it will be followed by the fairing separation.
Let's talk about the fairing then for a minute, if we can, because that is what is currently protecting the satellites, yeah?
Indeed, Greg. In this initial phase of the launch, the fairing protects the 36 OneWeb satellites which are sitting in the upper part of the Soyuz launcher. At the liftoff, there are acoustic vibrations and also friction, which occurs when the launch vehicle is flying through the dense part of the atmosphere at a very high speed. Hence, the fairing plays the fundamental job of shielding the satellites from the severe conditions during the initial phase of the attack.
And in about a minute, we'll be at an altitude where the fairing can then be jettisoned, right?
That's right. So when we are high enough, there is little atmosphere left. So there's no need to maintain the fairing on the launch vehicle to protect the satellite. So the fairing is jettisoned after the second stage engine cutoff and separation. This would be the first time we would be able to see the satellites. And if we're up there, we'd be able to see that are attached to a central dispenser in a configuration that resembles a corn on the cob.
Yeah, I love it when you describe it like this, the corn on the cob. So how are the OneWeb satellites released from that corn on the cob style central dispenser?
So the central dispenser is attached to the frigate in the upper part of the launcher, and this frigate is the smartest part of the launch vehicle. It has its own brain, and it's able to execute the maneuvers necessary to position the dispenser so it can execute the satellite separation.
So
it's like a school bus drop-off. We release 4 satellites per stop in a series of 9 separations in total. The frigate, our celestial bus, as we call
There's
it,
our
has
stage
only
separation
one
there,
gear, and after
and the
each
fairings are
drop-off,
going.
it becomes lighter. The frigate will have to fire its engine for a shorter period of time after its separation for this very reason. And I think that we're just seeking confirmation from Ariane's past that these events have occurred, correct, right?
Yeah, so we just saw on the animation there that this would be the time where the second stage engine would cut off, the third station engine would ignite, the second stage would separate, and then the fairing would separate. So I'll just wait for confirmation from that in my ear. Tell us a little bit more, Maurizio, what happens after the satellites have been released from your celestial bus, as you put it?
Indeed. So once the satellites are released, the onboard computer wakes them up, and the team at the Startup Operations Center take control of the satellites. And in the meanwhile, I think, Greg, we just received confirmation from a
We've just received confirmation, yeah.
Everything is progressing nominally. So it will take several weeks, a few weeks, for them to reach the operational altitude at 1,200 kilometers. As we said, they're slowly moving in an upward spiral.
Maurizio, thank you so much for joining me live. Sharing your knowledge, as always. Very much appreciated. Thank you.
Always my pleasure. Thank you, Greg. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye. That is not it from me just yet, though. We want to continue our look back at what OneWeb have achieved this year. Let's start with their mission to bring the first connections to customers. Earlier, I mentioned 50 degrees north. It's also known as the 50th parallel of latitude, and it's an important line on the map for OneWeb. It's the first area of the world that will be covered by a OneWeb satellite broadband service from orbit. It's a vast area of the world which stretches from the North Pole to the southernmost tip of the UK, and it includes Northern Europe, Canada, and the US state of Alaska. Within that area are many remote communities whose connectivity with the wider world has, until now, been limited by location, connection speed, and cost. However, in July 2021, OneWeb's 8th launch delivered the last of the satellites needed to be ready to deliver satellite internet above 50 degrees north. Let's have a look back at that moment and what it will mean in this part of the world.
Now, the theme of today's particular launch, which I love, is Hello North Pole. Yes, we are going to say hello to the North Pole, which has never before been connected to the internet.
We're Strategies 360 from Anchorage, Alaska, and we're excited to connect rural Alaska with the world.
We are ready for the launch.
Hi, my name is Sam Losan, and I'm Chief Executive Officer over here at Denali Brewing Company in Talkeetna, Alaska. OneWeb's high-speed, low-latency internet connectivity is important to me because without internet connection, we just can't get the job done.
We are so excited about the connectivity that OneWeb brings to all of those hard-to-reach places in Canada, from coast to coast to coast.
Hi there, I'm Melissa Thorpe, and I am the head of Spaceport Cornwall. We're providing responsive access to space, and with OneWeb and their low latency connectivity, that will be responsive access back to Earth so that we can connect rural areas like Cornwall better than ever before.
I'm delighted to be here at OneWeb's next successful launch as it completes its 5 to 50 program.
Earlier in the show, I mentioned some of the people that will benefit from the initial OneWeb service switch on, which is going to be taking place later this year. Let's now hear from 3 of these countries. Liesl, I'd love to hear from you just some of the key challenges when it comes to delivering broadband across Alaska. What problems are you guys up against?
Alaska represents 1/3 the entire landmass of the United States of America, and our population is only 737,000 people. So if you can just imagine all of these beautiful Alaskans living out their lives, learning, receiving medical care, entering into the commerce stream, we've been left behind in many ways. We refer to it as the digital divide here in Alaska, and OneWeb represents an opportunity to meaningfully close that digital divide in a way that
footage from previous launches.
And Joe, do you suffer the same sort of problems when it comes to connecting Canada? What kind of challenges do you have to overcome?
Yeah, so certainly similar to what Liesl said, you know, we have connectivity challenges because we have such a large landmass as well. But we're super excited about the OneWeb partnership for another reason, and that is the national sovereignty of Canada, where we have government operations in the far north, our territorial Arctic waters, where connectivity, broadband connectivity for ships on the move and military forces on the move are quite crucial. And OneWeb certainly complements our portfolio of solutions for those customers.
Great. So you're going to be using it both on land and at sea. Neil, love to hear from you. I mean, when you think of the UK, you think it's pretty well connected, but there are still some sticking points when it comes to everybody having broadband, aren't there?
Yeah, look, Georgie, we're in the UK, we're a knowledge economy, and to really take part in the core business of the UK, you've got to be connected. We have many places in the north of Scotland, the Highlands and Islands, where it's difficult to build, it's expensive, you know, environmental challenges as well. Wales and some of the rural location of Wales, but actually all over the country you'll find a not spot. And OneWeb's capability really helps us plug those not spots in a really great way, and brings those people into that knowledge economy and lets them take part and be successful.
Well, listen, that's all we have time for. Thank you so much, Liesl, Joe and Neil, for joining us today.
Perhaps the biggest advantage of high-speed broadband from space is that it can be delivered literally anywhere, from the top of a mountain to the middle of the ocean. And that provides a crucial benefit to something we all rely on but rarely see: shipping and offshore operations. Real-time, reliable access to data isn't just about streaming your favourite movie on a cruise ship. For maritime businesses, access to that data helps in myriad ways, from improving the timeliness of tracking and crew scheduling to vital environmental impact monitoring. Technologies to boost cleaner shipping are ready and viable today. The pressure to adopt them is growing, but the lack of mid-ocean connectivity capable of delivering them is stopping many operators from making use of new tech. This is where OneWeb is part of the discussion and the solution, developing high-speed, low-latency communications and data transfer services that will have a powerful role in decarbonising shipping. Let's continue our look back on OneWeb's 2021 journey, this time with a maritime focus.
I'm only interested in the launch, homie, not what OneWeb's doing. I mean, I'll see if we can get at least up until Fregat cut off. Because Fregat could have well, Fregat probably has separated by now and we know nothing about it.
With the help of my guests, I'll be exploring what ESG really means for shipping's value chain, its investors, its people and their future.
Yes, connectivity with a purpose is very much one of our mantra. And when you strip away all of the technology, the satellite and the complex rocket launching, we have this strong purpose at heart. This is the core of our business. So for me, connectivity is this foundation layer that's onto which you can build your digital strategy and onto which you build your ESG strategy. Connectivity is so relevant to the seafarers. You talked about the seafarers. I was reading the Seafarer Happiness Index, saying that 1.9 million seafarers in 2021, and their happiness towards feeling isolated is really going down. It's one of the most isolating carriers on the planet. And I think connectivity can change that in both ways. Connectivity enables the automated ship, highly automated vessels. And who knows, maybe half of the crew will actually now operate the ship from shore and effectively have a much better work-life balance, possibly interest I wouldn't say the millennial now, but the Gen Z to move into shipping. Connectivity is also a fundamental layer enabling the regulator to effectively demand from ship owners to demonstrate compliance all the time, everywhere. And that will effectively sift actors between the good citizens of this world and the others.
And that's what OneWeb wants to be, a good citizen.
We want to be a good citizen. We are very much committed. We want to walk the talk. We want to support the vessel as a platform of opportunities. I just want to see all these vessels gathering health on all the oceans all together, and effectively shipping moving from a polluting industry to very much confirm its place as the most cost-efficient, safe way to transport goods around the world.
For nearly a decade, we've been promised mid-air, mid-flight connectivity that delivers a true broadband-in-the-sky experience. And it may be a while since you've been on a long-haul business trip, but I'm sure you'll remember that the reality of in-flight Wi-Fi is patchy and expensive. And this is what the reach of space-based, high-speed global broadband is going to transform. And it's not only about in-flight entertainment. Fast, reliable, and always-on in-flight Wi-Fi means a flight doesn't have to mean being out of the office. If required, this service can seamlessly deliver cloud computing, virtual meetings, and online trading. This is why aviation is another key sector in OneWeb's customer base. And here is what they've been up to this year.
No matter where they are, the airline passenger of today wants reliable connectivity, and the passenger of tomorrow will demand it. But we all know that in-flight connectivity has never been able to match the home or office broadband experience. Until now. Month by month, we're growing our fleet, and soon we'll have network coverage that's as global as you are, delivering in-flight connectivity to passengers over every continent, ocean, and polar route. Our fleet is always on the move, orbiting the Earth in a constellation designed to create seamless global coverage. Each satellite uses a set of 16 beams to cover an area the size of Alaska, and is proven to guarantee in-flight connectivity no matter how remote your aircraft may be, even across the widest oceans. With our low Earth orbit satellite technology, you can be confident your passengers' connectivity experience will be limited only by their imagination, not the available bandwidth. Thanks to aviation, the world is better connected. And now, with OneWeb, aviation can finally stay connected to the world.
I've had confirmation from Arianespace for third stage cutoff and separation, and frigate insertion into orbit. So all is nominal, and this is where we are going to leave our Launch 12
wow,
live
we can
show.
get most
the
of
mission
that.
continues, of course. As Maurizio
Oh,
said, those
I'm buzzing
satellites
25.
will
That was
soon start
OneWeb.
being dropped off at an
Launch 12.
altitude of
Goodbye.
400